So welcome to our meditation time. I would invite you to settle in, to allow your body to be physically comfortable. Allow your eyes to either gently close or just cast them down toward the ground. And use that gesture as a way of telling the distractions around you that for the next few minutes, you want to be here and now, in this present moment. And so as the body settles and the eyes close off from the distractions, begin to notice your breath. Think of it as this beautiful ally as you sit in meditation. And just notice the inhale. Notice that split second between the inhale when it turns into the exhale. And notice how you feel through the whole process. Recognize it as more than just this exchange of gases, but feel it as the life-giving force that it is. And as you notice that breath, if it feels a little too slow, then maybe you make it a little more vibrant. If it feels a little too much, then maybe you slow it down. But again, think of it as an ally. You determine the pace of breath that honors how you've shown up today. And then as we begin to just really sit together in this present moment, I would invite you just to notice what is in your mind right now. If we'll pause and we'll notice and we'll have awareness of these things, they will have a much harder time distracting us. So let's just take stock of what are the thoughts in the list and the things that are filling up your thoughts in your mind right now. We don't try to clear our mind to show up for meditation, but we do try to use the breath and the rest within the body to bring some evenness to those fluctuations in our head. Chances are they won't just stop completely. But as we stay aware and as we breathe, just like those distractions that you closed your eyes from, all of that stuff going on in your head will have a harder time distracting you. So for these few minutes that we have today, I want to dig in to these 4 agreements that Don Miguel Ruiz gave us in this beautiful little text that he wrote not long ago. These agreements that he teaches us are, it sounds like on the surface, agreements that we make with others. But as we dig deeper, we begin to understand they are agreements that we make with ourselves. And I cannot think of a more beautiful text to focus on during our meditation time, because this is a time of spending the moments with ourselves. So let's begin to just notice how we talk to ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how we think about ourselves. His first agreement that we're going to sit with for these few minutes we have today and in the days to come again, this first agreement says that you should be impeccable with your word. He chose the word impeccable very intentionally. If you get to the root of it, the root, if you take off the I am, the impeccable part of it, it means sin. And so you put that I am in the beginning of it, and that's the opposite. So what he's saying is let your word be without sin. But we've got to get beyond just this surface level understanding that we have of this word sin. It doesn't mean this context of in religious settings that we think of the bad things that you don't do, the shall nots. But rather, when he says to be impeccable with your word, what he is saying is Don't let your word have anything toxic connected to it. Don't let your word be poison. Don't let your word harm. He gives this example of we are like a computer, and when we allow toxic, harmful words into our thoughts, it's like a computer virus has come in and just taken over. Nothing works as it should. We don't get the results that we want. And ultimately, it causes frustration. The same thing happens when our word is not impeccable. But he doesn't ask us to think about how we talk to other people. He says we've got to start with ourselves. And so I would ask you, and I'm going to ask myself the same thing. When you look in the mirror, first thing in the morning, you're the first person that you usually see. What do you think about yourself? Do you immediately jump to the parts that you have criticism toward? The parts you want to fix and modify and change? Or do you look upon yourself with love and compassion and full acceptance? Our culture has kind of programmed us not to see the good. Every commercial that you look at, every time you turn around to an advertisement, it's some solution to the things that are wrong with us. But this little lesson by Don Miguel Ruiz is telling us, look upon yourself with love and with truth. And I know immediately some minds are going to this idea, but it is true that this body part is like this or this thing is like that. You got to dig deeper. Dig below the surface. What is your truth? Who are you? What is your purpose? What makes your heart sing? And what is your truth? Sadly, many of us have begun to think things about ourselves because of things that have been said to us or about us, or because of the way we've been treated in the past. Each of those things becomes this little piece of poison that comes within us. And just like that computer virus, it takes over until things don't work the way that they're supposed to. We weren't meant to look upon ourselves with dissatisfaction. We weren't created to hate certain parts of ourselves. Our purpose, our unique contribution to this world is not one that's undergirded in the things that we see wrong with us. And I don't think it's an accident that he chose this as the first agreement before he goes on to the other lessons, because if we can't come into an agreement with ourselves about how good and filled with light we really are, we'll never be able to move into the kind of relationships that we want with other people. Because every time this negative thought comes into our mind about ourselves, every time we look in the mirror and we criticize, we're making an agreement with that. An agreement that says, I'm not good enough. I'm too this, or I'm not enough of that. But each time we show up here together in meditation, the thing that holds this practice together is the fact that there is a divine force inside of each of us. And every time we believe this agreement that we're not good enough, we've either discounted the power of that light or we've just forgotten about it altogether. So I want to just pause. I know this is a hard topic, but I also know that once you can move beyond seeing yourself a certain way, being so critical and so judgmental about how you look and the things that you know and how good you are at something, the sooner you can begin to move from those ways of being, it's like you've applied the cure to that computer virus and everything is restored. So I want us just to pause for just a few breaths and just think to ourselves, if I had to write down right now 3 opinions that I have of myself, what would those opinions be? And then as you think about what those opinions might be, think to yourself, have these become agreements that I've made with myself? Do I really believe these things? And if they are good and affirming opinions, then keep believing them. But if they're critical and judgmental and harmful, let's use this practice to begin lessening their power in our lives. Let's become impeccable with our words going forward. And I don't share this lesson, this agreement from his book lightly, because I can tell you, as someone who is 54 years old, I still remember in the 7th grade hurtful things that someone said about me. Decades ago, someone had an opinion, said it out loud, and that virus just began to infiltrate. And for decades to follow, it created an agreement for how I saw myself. And I think to myself how long I wasted not seeing the value that I have. And so I would encourage each of us today, let's begin making new agreements. Let's be impeccable with our words that we use toward and about ourselves. The fact that we show up for meditation means that we are seeking. Not often do we know what, but we are seeking. And what we'll eventually find is what we're seeking is already within us. It's just been covered up by layers and layers and years of these false, wrong, toxic agreements that we've made with ourselves. Today, in this moment, let's start to cultivate new ones. So as you continue just to sit in comfort or lay wherever you are, breathing in slow, deep, gentle breaths, go back to that list that we each made in our head of these opinions that we have of ourselves. And pick the one that's harmful, and let's begin to reverse it. Chances are it's about something tangible, it's about something physical in your appearance, or about something in your skill set. So maybe our agreement needs to be that I have value. I have value. Maybe your agreement needs to be something like, I am worthy of the time that I spend on me. I am worthy of the time that I spend on me. Or maybe your agreement needs to be that I fully accept who I am, how I am, and what I am in this present moment. I fully accept who I am and how I am and what I am in this present moment. And if there's a way of reframing your agreement that works better for you, then think of that. But let's begin to manifest something different. To stop agreeing to these toxic, awful things about ourselves. There is a divine presence in each of us. And let's make how we see ourselves and how we talk to ourselves be an expression of honoring that. So as we sit for this next little bit in quiet, the only one you're sitting with is you. Like the person that you're sitting with. See their value. Embrace all the parts of them. Just one breath at a time. And as you continue to breathe, continue to be right where you are. If it feels comfortable, I would invite you just to put one hand right in the center of your heart. Almost as a promise, think about when you were a kid and you stood for the pledge to the flag. It was a promise. Although sometimes it was a rote habit that we just did, it still represented the hand on the heart, a promise. So let our hand on our heart tonight represent a promise to first be aware of the agreements we've already made with ourselves, the way that we see ourselves, the way we speak to ourselves. And as that hand is on your heart, let it be a commitment to begin to speak differently, to begin this path of being impeccable with your words toward yourself. And it's not probably the audible words, it's the unspoken ones. The ones that don't even leave your lips, but they just cement themselves in your mind. With that hand on your heart, commit to first being aware and then trying something different. We have value. We deserve the time that we spend on ourselves. And we are so good that we need to accept ourselves fully. Who we are, how we are, and what we are. As we strive to be impeccable with our word, let's let the words toward us be the focus. words that express and honor the value of this divine presence within each of us. Namaste.